Kyren's winning now and getting to finals with the sort of regularity that Trump was last season and the season before, and obviously he's keen to sort of distance himself from the best player in the world right now, because no one probably wants to carry that. But is he the best out there on current form?
Oh, well, we've done this before, haven't we? And Judd didn't like it.
Yeah, no one likes it. No one wants us to curse them, but that's exactly what we're doing.
I know, but he's got a strong argument. You can't deny that. It's obviously it's a Sean Murphy obviously had a fantastic Masters and played brilliantly, but you have to say it's a two-player season. It's dominated by Judd Trump and Kyren Wilson, who are becoming winning machines. And to win regularly like they are doing is a talent. To be able to win and win and win again. I mean, straight off the back of the Masters, losing in the final, to bounce back and win a huge event. It's hard to argue against it right at this point in time. Whether he is the best player in the world per se the whole season, it's a big argument. But you have to say, final of the Masters, winning in Berlin, he's got an argument.
It's pretty impressive off the back of having become world champion for the first time as well, isn't it? We've seen players have a big dip after that first milestone. Kyren always said, I wanted this to be the start. I want to push on from here and achieve more. And he had that wobble early in the season when he was probably still celebrating, essentially still coming down from it. But really, most of this season, he's looked like the world champion that he became last April.
It's been a phenomenal season as world champion. The UK was at the semi-final, lost to Judd in the semi-final of the UK. It's been an incredible season. We go back to when we did I think it was at the first podcast of this season when he'd lost 6-0 in Shanghai. Yep. And I commented, wow, this is that. What a disaster for a first match as world champion. And then since then, it's been incredible. Yeah, you can give him nothing but praise. I'm not sure about the haircut. I mean, it looks homemade to me. I mean, I don't know whether that was on the eve of the tournament he decided to get the clippers out and just do it himself.
I was just going to say, you say you can give him nothing but praise. I think there's some areas where we don't necessarily have to give him praise. He seems to be shaking up the haircut every tournament at the moment, and he also did a very elaborate walk-in where he got the crowd going, clapping along with him. 2 minutes of it. It's a big old place, the Templedrome, as we said before, and Kyren's not someone you think of as a sort of a rabble rouser, someone that wants to get the crowd whipped up, but he seems to what with that and the haircuts, he seems to have become sort of a bit of a showman which is at the very least is the mark of someone that's really enjoying himself, I suppose. Jokes about the hair and whatnot.
And you have to back that up when you do things like that, like clapping and bring, drawing your attention to yourself. We want trying to bring something else to the game as obviously trying to. He's a character now. I mean, he's doing these different things, and obviously it's something that he and his brother Taylor are obviously as a way of creating this sort of whole thing around him as a personality, a sports personality. But at the end of the day, you got to back it up, and that's impressive to me. I mean, I've seen down the years players turn up at tournaments, in limos and get brand new suits made and come out with all sorts, and then get beaten the first round. You got to back you got to back it up, and he is doing so. It's very, very impressive. I don't know if I would do like the old hand clapping with the crowd. I just want to get down and get on the table as quickly as possible. But
you barely like them clapping when you got a century.
Yeah, and what was that song as well? He was clapping along to that wasn't. He's changed his walk-on music. That was a new one.
Yeah, and it also looked like he was clapping slightly out of time with the song, to be fair to him. But
well, yeah. If you're going to clap, you got to be in time. Surely he's got to learn that. He's putting a lot of work into his game. He's got to put a bit of work into his musical timing, I think.
Yeah. Off the table, he's got a bit of work to do still, but he's doing it. I mean, I think you're right that if you're going to start being a character like this, you're going to get more attention. You've got to live up to it. We learned last episode that your sponsors once flew you in and back by helicopter, for example. You sort of needed to be winning games after that, otherwise you would have looked a bit foolish getting back in the shop.
Yeah, exactly. You turn up in a helicopter and lose. Yeah, it's not the
best. There was a couple of comments after he lost the final of the Masters to Murphy that he said that Murphy maybe needed it a bit more than him, and he called him an old man, in fact, which is something that I didn't like personally, because both of us are older than Murphy, I believe, for a start. He's definitely are. And there were a couple of other comments just suggesting that Kyren had maybe not reacted to the defeat very well, which doesn't seem like him. He always comes across very charming. But again, you just wonder if you've talked a bit about how to be a serial winner, you've got to develop this almost nasty side. Do you think that Kyren's starting to, is it something you'd almost applaud, that bit of edge in his personality? I
don't like seeing good losers. There's a saying: if you show me a good loser, I'll show you a loser. And I think in sport there's a lot of there's a lot to that. I think. I don't mind the fact that he's a bad loser. I think that's the only way to be. Why would you enjoy losing? It was a huge match in the Masters. He came back, had a chance to get back into it, and ended up losing. A couple of things he said, I thought, maybe he didn't have. I mean, he felt the need to remind everyone that he was world champion. And I think there was a comment about people on the circuit being jealous of his situation or something. A couple of things that maybe didn't need to be said. But listen, when you lose, and the microphone's put in your face, sometimes, I'm more guilty of it than anyone in the history of the game, saying things that I shouldn't say after a loss. But if you're hurting, I'd be disappointed if he wasn't hurting from losing.
And it's interesting. It was Judd was one of the guys that sort of picked up on it and suggested that maybe Kyren was a bit of a sore loser, and that tells you something as well. That rivalry between Trump and Wilson is warming up very nicely. It seems like. I'm sure there's nothing too personal in it, but it is the sort of thing we want, isn't it? These storylines.
Absolutely. I mean, there was needle in it, but a few years ago when they lost it, when they played in the Masters, then there was a bit of needle back and forward. Then it sort of calmed down. They became more friendly, and now Judd has sort of stoked it up a little bit again. So Judd is probably as maybe worse, as bad or worse a loser than Kyren Wilson, but he keeps his post-match interviews very short, as I did. It speaks as because if you start going down a road, sometimes you say, to get yourself out of it, you say something you don't really want to. I'd prefer just to say, okay, yes, no, yes, no. Stick to that.
Yeah, and fair enough, really. As you say, the longer you chat, the more likely it is that you'll say something that you regret.
Fantastic for the game, 1 and 2 in the world. A bit of needle. I mean, that's exactly what the game wants. Exactly what we want. We want as spectators. It's brilliant for the game.
Absolutely. It feels like we were talking about Ronnie for so much of the first series of this podcast, and the idea we've got a rivalry between two players that aren't him now. Yeah, very refreshing.